welcome to liferay4u.com. In our previous tutorial we have seen what are the Windows states and what is the anatomy of a portlet URL. In this tutorial I'm going to tell you how we can pass data from action to render phase. So there are four ways basically to pass the data from a render phase to action phase. So from action to render phase, I'm sorry for that. And to do that, there are four methods, which are by setting the values in request attribute, or we can set render parameter in action, and then we can fetch those out in our render phase, and then by copying down all parameters in action as a render parameter, which can be done by processing an init parameter. Another way is to do is by using the sessions. So this is our controller class, and I'm having a portlet over here. So what I want to do is, whenever this action method is called, I want to have something over here. I want to set some attributes over here so that I can fetch those out over here. So our first method, by setting values in request attribute, we have already done that. We have set an attribute from action method over here from action, and we are fetching this out over here in the render mode. So first of all, whenever an action method is going to be called, this method will be called, and then after that render method will be called, which is doView. So this form action will be having the values which are being set over here in this true. So corresponding to that, we are changing the JSP, and then we are returning back the control to some other portlet container. So if this value is true, then call this JSP, else calls the default JSP of view.jsp. So let us put up a request over here, and then let us submit it. So what is happening over here is that first this action method is being called, and then this doView method is being called, and then corresponding to this value, whether it has been set it true or not, the particular JSP is being called, which is success.jsp, which has come over here. So one of the method of passing the values is this. Another method is by setting the render parameter in action. So what we need to do is over here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up an render parameter in action response. So what I'm gonna do is action response dot set render parameter, and then I'm gonna set from action render parameter, and then I'm gonna put up the values like that only, and this is it. So now what I need to do is I need to declare a string over here, and then let us say this name only, and then render request dot get parameter, and then pass the name which is the same only, and then let's rename this to action render parameter, and then let's just state from action render, and let us put up something over here so that we can differentiate it. Value is this, and let us trace this also so that we have a track whether doView is being called or not. Okay, so first of all, when I'm gonna put up a request, this render method is being called, which is the portlet lifecycle. First of all, the render method is called, so doView is being called over here. So now I'm gonna put up an action request, and I'm gonna put up over here, let's say Joey as the student name, and then I'm gonna submit it. So once I have submitted this will come to my action class, action method over here, and then it is going to print up the student name. So once the student name is printed, then it is going to call this states, and then it is going to go back to the doView method, which is over here. Once this doView is called, then we have set it a parameter in our request object, which is from action. We are fetching this out from a string over here, from action to from a string, and then we are checking whether the value is true. If it is true, then we are fetching out the parameter that we have sent from over here. So action response dot set render parameter, we are fetching this out over here, and then we are printing it out, which is from action parameter. So this is how you can pass the values from our render phase to from our action phase to render phase. Let me make it more clear so that I'm gonna go back, and then I'm gonna put up something, and then I'm gonna submit it, and see the values are over here. If you want to get rid of this thing that you don't want to set the parameters over here and then do something else, so what we need to do is we can put up these values over here in portlet.xml file, and what we need to do is we need to put up an init param over here, which is this, and then we need to specify copy the request parameters, and then we need to set the values true. By default it is false. So whatever the parameters those are coming, whatever the values those are coming as a parameter in our action method, those will be reflected back over here in the render method. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up a string, and then I'm gonna say student name and render is equals to render request dot get parameter, and then I'm gonna pass the name of our text box over there, and then here it is, and then I'm going to toss this out to it, and which will be student name, do use this, and that's it. So these values will be copied down in our action parameter. See, this is what we have printed over here in this method, action method. This is Joe, and then this is completed. Action method is completed over here, and the control is sent back to the doView, which is over here. Then we are fetching this as a parameter from a student from the request, and then we are putting up as a sysout in the console. So this was the third way how we can pass. Another one is session. I'm gonna have a different tutorial for this. It's a big topic, and then I'm going to cover this value over there. So up till now, thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.